That's right. A very good evening to each and every one of you, wherever you're joining us from tonight, folks. Let's fight, let's fight, let's fight, let's fight, let's fight. We are happy that you folks are here with us. Wherever you're joining us from tonight, folks, share the live for us and smash that emoji button as well, folks. Do that for us. Wherever you're coming from. I know I promised I wasn't coming on this evening because I'm not feeling too well, folks. But my oh my, too much to digest, too much to discuss, to wait until tomorrow. I hope the guys are joining me, taking it a little easy tonight. We got Dolly Anderson already here with us, Samoa Williams, Lennox Anderson, Pretty Milicia, Forbes Majus is here as well, folks. We talking all things addressed to the National Assembly today by Irfaan Ali. We're gonna break it down for you folks. What we know, what wasn't said, what was said, we're going to break it all down for you. Share the live, folks. Smash that emoji button too. Wherever you're joining us from, do that for us. 3 hours, 13 minutes, I think it was clocked at. That presentation by Irfaan Ali could have done it in much less time if you had just stripped away all of the dross from it. Could have done it in much better time and perhaps in even better form. But what more could you expect? What more could you expect? We're going to be talking with that. I got two guests joining me, folks who understand these issues, understand the economy, understand the people of this country, and they've been listening to, they've been talking to members of the public as well, and we're going to have their views, folks. But what a presentation! What a presentation today. My God, what a presentation. This was the President Irfaan Ali's address to the 86th sitting of the 12th Parliament in the year 2024. Folks, that was the only thing really and truly on the order paper for today. The National Assembly convened at around 10. They got some minor business out of the way in about 10 minutes, and then there was a long wait with all the dignitaries seated there waiting for Kim Jong Irfaan to come just after 11 o'clock. And then from there, he spoke for three hours, about 13, 40 minutes. It was kind of bizarre because I think at that time, 3 hours something, he realized he had lost the room. And even though a very poor job done in terms of the videography, there were no cutaways to the diplomats who were there. There were no cutaways to the students. Well, the parliamentary opposition boycotted the whole thing, and rightfully so. There were no cutaways to see. You could hear no applause in the National Assembly. Well, there was nothing much to applaud anyhow, but it was a very, very poor videography production from that standpoint in and of itself. So you really couldn't gauge how the people in the well of the National Assembly were responding because you just had Irfaan all the time. So one would figure that somewhere around 3 hours, 14 minutes, people were leaving. People were leaving because I'm certain the diplomats didn't think they'd be sitting down there for 3 pushing on 4 hours listening to Irfaan. So he abruptly ended this presentation. You will look at it. I'm not trying to be facetious just for the sake of it. Very abruptly finished this presentation and, hightail out of there. As I said, it could have been done in much less time. Now, this is the second time Irfaan is addressing the National Assembly. I checked. The last time was February 11th, 2021. And I did some comparisons. The last presentation and this one. The last one, of course, much shorter, but some of the same themes: good governance, accountability, unity. They don't mean none of this stuff. This is just fluff. Talked about COVID-19. This is in 2021, February 11th, as I said. Talked about handouts to the vulnerable, elderly, single mothers. Talked about the effect of the pandemic. Stuff we have heard before. In large measure, some of the things that were outlined today, we have heard them before. This presentation didn't need to be more than an hour. All things being equal, I'm not trying to be facetious, folks. This presentation could have been under an hour. I want to bring in my guests to give us some broad sweeps. I got some more things that I want to talk about. Of course, again, in the 2021 address to the National Assembly, February 11, he spoke about oil and gas resources benefiting the nation as a whole, upholding transparency, plans to modernize the law, to invest in human capital, and to promote a sustainable economy. Like I said, this was like any Thursday afternoon. Listen to Jack at the mirror of Rob Street, there waxing outside of the announcements. This could have been any Thursday afternoon, talking about all the things they have done, and half of it is half of them are lies, really and truly. So I took a quick look at what was said the last time he was in the National Assembly, and was just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. You had that, and then a lot of this presentation looked and sounded, had general themes to the leader of the opposition's people-centered development strategy. It looked and sounded similar to that, and then it had some themes too. When I read it, also with President David Granger's a decade of development as well. It sounded like that they were just ashamed to just brand the whole thing decade of development, in my estimation. But I want to bring my guests on this evening, folks. I am privileged to have joining me tonight the one and only Elson Lowe joining us, and we also have Elson Lowe is the economic advisor to the leader of the opposition. He is also the treasurer of the PNCR, and he also is a spokesman for PNCR on all things oil and gas. Ganesh Maipal, of course, wears many hats. The substantive one that he wears is the Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Development. He understands this country, the economy, understands the accounting. He sits on the Public Accounts Committee as a member, and a formidable member at that. He interrogates the spending of this government, and we couldn't be asked to be joined by two better persons than we have this evening. I know we have a very lengthy intro, but Ganesh, welcome. Elson, welcome. Let me take some broad sweeps at some of what was discussed today. Some of the announcements that were made, and you guys have said it before as we have engaged each other. There's a lot of money that were appropriated through the national budget that they can't spend, and we saw this coming. We saw this quote unquote Christmas in October, as it were. This is getting rid of the money. This, anybody coming a contract right now gonna get signed off one time. Take a 800 million, take a 900 million, the list goes on. So let me take a broad sweep of it. We heard about the 200,000 cash grant per household. Now this got a lot of problems because some people are already on social media said, "What's a household? I just rent. I living downstairs and somebody upstairs. Blah 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 blah. What is a household? Define a family. Define a household." So this got some problems right off the bat. And I'm coming top right, then I'm going middle left, and then bottom right again. By the end of 2025, no less than 100,000 for public sector employees. The minimum you should be earning in the public sector, according to the Jagdeo Ali regime, is 100,000. But of course, this is 2025. This is down the road. This is like the new Apple smartphone that is supposed to be AI superior, but they don't have any AI in it. So you got to wait down the road, but the announcement comes now. New rules for accelerated depreciation of capital investment by poultry farmers. So this is a segment of the economy this is going to be geared for. Government said they're going to be examining tax aid for the Industry Act for eligible to see whether this is whether persons in this bracket might be eligible for a tax holiday. Some of the more common things, this universal healthcare voucher of $10,000 per child to be introduced, like the 100,000 minimum wage, as it were, in 2025. This says, vote for me, and I can give you this when I come back. UG tuition will be abolished in 2025. Tolls to be abolished. They said whenever the new Demerara Harbor Bridge becomes operational, then tolls on the Westman Bridge can be free, and then the one on the Burbage Bridge can be free. But whenever the Demerara Harbor Bridge becomes operational, electricity costs to be slashed in half. NIS getting a 10 billion one-off. We don't know the categories of people in NIS that might be captured by this broadly, but a one-off. So if your pension going to 50,000, 60,000, or nothing at all. Folks, again, as I said, I have these eminent gentlemen with me. Welcome. And let's start with that very, very, very first one. Cash grant. Because that is the main one, and that is a major one. Guys, Take a look at this and then jump in as soon as we come
I
back.
see this nonsensical thing about cash transfer. My dear friends in the media, go and read the IDB report and see what it says specifically about Guyana and specifically at the best tools that were used in the cost of living crisis. I also wish to announce now a one-off cash grant of $200,000 to every household in Guyana. A one-off cash grant of $200,000 to every household in Guyana.
Yeah. So a press conference in February of this year, January, February, Irfan is vehemently against this kind of cash grant. Now, moments later, Elson, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the point here to me is that this is not and never has been the PPP government's idea. This is something they were forced to do because of the public pressure and because the opposition has been relentless in our calling for assistance for the cost of living crisis. We said since in 2022, because we observed in 2021 that this $60 billion the government had received an unexpected $60 billion due to the high oil price from that terribly tragic war in Ukraine. And so we said that that money needed to be distributed. That's $60 billion. Now, years later, the PPP has finally arrived at the party and finally acknowledged that we've been saying the correct thing all the way along and has distributed or intends to distribute that money. It's just sad that it is coming so late after people have endured a cost of living crisis for years. You mentioned that they're all about political gamesmanship and focusing on politics, but it is to me very sad that that's what you're seeing closer to the election. They want to throw this cash grant rather than when people needed it, which is to say during the depths of the cost of living crisis. So that $200,000 per household. We had said 300,000 per household because we thought there were less households. We still want to see the census so that there's clarity as to the exact number of households. But that is our idea all along. So we want to make sure that the Guyanese public is aware that it's because of our relentless pressure that the government has. I think we've spoken on this thing. Ganesh can also tell me his recollection. Probably 5 times, 6 times in press conferences. We've continued to pummel on this particular issue because we know that the money is there. We keep making this point, Sherrod. It's not that there isn't money. It's that the government hasn't wanted to spend the money on Guyanese, has not wanted to do anything about the cost of living crisis, has sat down on the money, and now we're being proven correct because the same $60 billion that we said was available is what they're spending on this cash grant. The other thing we want to make sure is clear is that in the COVID-19 25,000 cash grant, a lot of people, especially renters, complained that they were not able to receive those monies. The government needs to do a better job this time around and ensure, they've said that renters will be able to receive it, but they need to ensure that people are able to receive this money because it is not acceptable that some would benefit, especially those who might be well off, and then those who really need the money don't get the benefits. We must also remember that a lot of Guyanese don't live in regularized housing. They may be squatting on dams and so on. They are households as well, and they need to receive their fair share as Guyanese. It is really vital for us to recognize that those are some of the people who need the money the most. What happened last time with that COVID-19 cash grant is that they shared out the money to many neighborhoods, well-off neighborhoods, before they shared it out, before
And
they
they thief
provided.
a lot too. They thief a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
too.
Well, a lot of lower income neighborhoods were some of the last to receive. I think Sophia was one of the last
Yeah.
neighborhoods to receive it. And
And
they
as soon as that announcement was being made today, lots of members in the public on social media were saying, "I still got a pink slip.
Yeah,
What do
exactly.
you with this?"
Exactly. The other thing that really concerns me here, Sherrod, is the number of households they're providing for as much as 300,000 households. If Guyana has, let's say four people per household, you're looking at over 1 million people in this country. So that's why we need to see that census to see what exactly are the numbers we're looking at, because it could be that they've inflated this thing in order to skim some off the top. You say that it's 300,000 households when it's only 250, and the money for the 50,000 households that's going to be left over, you put them in your pocket along the way. That to me is a real concern. So we need to see the census data come out in combination with greater efforts to ensure everyone receives what they need.
MP Mahipal, as you joined the conversation, when I looked at this presentation this afternoon by Irfaan Ali, I got the impression it's a government that is very scared, very frightened. They had a budget a couple months ago. It's not a very long time, a couple months ago, and then here is Irfaan Ali taking 3 hours plus in terms of more relief. They've been telling Guyanese for the last 3 months, everything is all right. This cost of living thing is small thing. Prices and high and people lying on them and all that. And then you have all of this happening. Part of my thoughts also, MP and Elson, went to our teachers. Maybe they shortchanged themselves by caving in too early. Because I thought of the fact that Barrett Jagnew, Vice President, has said over and over, the economy can't take off nothing more. We can't get teachers nothing more because the economy can't absorb it. Here, Irfan comes now, giving more money out.
Well, Sharon, let me start off by saying to you that I think this was the launch of Irfan Ali's campaign for elections 2025, and
Very scary campaign.
he wanted to take full control of it. Perhaps he didn't want Jagdeo to direct how it should go, and he wanted to take full command of the stage, and he chose to use the National Assembly to make his remarks. And I noticed at the end of his presentation, he could not have helped but make reference to the empty seats that
Yeah,
were there. And
correct.
it made me laugh when I heard him speak to the empty chairs, because
He says
it means that
seats that
it
portray emptiness. Those were his words. Seats that portray
yes.
emptiness.
So it gives me the conviction that, you know what, it bothered him. It bothered
Yes, he
him that
did.
we were not
He
there.
did.
But Irfan had 4 years. He had 4 years to make an impact positively on the lives of ordinary, hardworking, tax-paying Guyanese, and he failed. He failed miserably, and now he's seeking to get sympathy support from the people of this country. And he has started early because he knows that he's lagging behind in terms of convincing the people, even though he has all of this resource at his disposal. I want to go back to the point that Elson made, which is very important, that this is really the coalition's number. This is really the coalition's point. This is really the coalition idea of doing this cash grant distribution. And I must let the public know that in 2018, the coalition indicated that upon receipt of the first set of money from oil resource, it will be dealt in such a way where the people will directly benefit through cash grant distribution. And it was Professor Clive Thomas, who at that time in 2018 said that the number should be 200,000. And it would have happened in 2020 had we been in the seat of government. So by 2025, public servants and the country would have expected a huge sum, not just 200,000. But beyond that, I want to be specific. It was the 1st of November 2022 when the PNCR called for this cash grant distribution of $300,000 per household. And I will quote from that statement on the 1st of November 2022, where we said, in the short term, however, as the cost of living continues to spiral upwards and the Guyanese families continue to struggle to make ends meet, we call on the government to ensure our people get more from the windfall of oil revenue. This windfall now amounts to over 30 million US dollars. We call for this windfall to be fairly and justly distributed so that all households can benefit. For ease of reference, this amounts to $300,000 per household. That is what we were calling for on the 1st of November 2022. But we did not stop there. On the 15th of November 2022, we repeated that call and we said we must not allow the PPP to peddle the fiction that Guyanese cannot realize their aspirations of living a comfortable and decent life. This country earned roughly 300 million US in excess oil revenue due to the war in Ukraine, which translates to 300,000 Guyana dollars per household, as
Mhm.
that was merely the unexpected excess. But Sherrod, we did not stop there either. On the 20th of December 2022, we also said Moreover, we noted that persistent inflow of unexpected high oil revenues occasioned by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We pointed out that this oil windfall equates to $300,000 per household, as proposed that this money be equitably and transparently distributed in a structured and focused way to the people of our country. Again, PPP rejected the people centered proposal. But we did not stop there, Sherrod. On the 7th of March 2024, we said the immediate distribution of the unexpected 300 million US dollar windfall in oil resource earned in 2022 due to the war in Ukraine should be distributed to the people of Guyana at $300,000 per household. But we did not stop there, Sherrod. On the 19th of July 2024, we said the immediate distribution of the unexpected 300 million US dollar windfall in oil revenue earned in 2022 due to the war in Ukraine should be distributed to the people of Guyana at $300,000 per household. So we have continuously said that this money ought to be distributed that way. So Irfan coming now to say $200,000 a household and want us to clap, well, we're clapping because it's ours. We fought for it. The people of Guyana knows that the APNU AFC fought for it, and they know that we would have done it had we been in power and did it better, because by now they would have probably been getting $1 million per household if we were there, given what was articulated in 2018. So it's nothing new that is being initiated by him that he wants us to celebrate. We welcome the 200,000, but we strongly believe it should have been more. We welcome it, but it should have been more. My concern, however, is the manner in which it will be distributed, because we remember from the
Yeah,
COVID-19 cash
yeah,
grant, that simple $25,000 per household, how much problems there were. There were people who, I remember in Wakenham, for example, the distributors assembled underneath a mango tree and they
hmm,
called people out and gave them, and sometimes people who are multiple people from one household ended up getting $25,000. Sometimes you end up seeing a mother, a father, and son getting $25,000 each. There was no structure in how they were doing it. There was no organized manner in how they distributed a simple $25,000. Beyond that, we also need to remember that they were using their PPP people, their
yeah,
PPP
yeah,
supporters in these respective areas. And we know that many people complained that they are still holding the pink slips. And whilst they're holding the pink slips, still awaiting their $25,000, these very supervisors of that 25,000 COVID cash grant ended up buying a new car, ended up
yeah,
renovating their
yeah.
houses, and
Living
ended
big,
up
big
changing
house.
their roofs.
Yeah,
So where did the money actually go? It really went to the
yeah,
PPPs, friends, families, and favorites, because there was no structured way in how they distributed those COVID cash grant. And it's no different with this system that he has announced there. So from the top, Irfan says one thing, sounds good, but it's the implementation, the execution, and the beneficiaries at the
yeah.
bottom that end up suffering at the end of it all.
Folks, I wanna add our chief whip Christopher Jones to this conversation. I wouldn't want to get in his bad books at all, based on his seniority among us. So let me add him. Chris, I'd love if you can give us a different orientation on that crisp video of yours. If you can maybe turn it the other way, we'd be very grateful. Thank you very much. You can sign out and then I'll bring you back in. Yeah. So on that note, Ganesh, I think you said something that goes to a fundamental thing that goes to the heart of this PPP administration. They don't like structure. That is why you see all the faults you see with the cash grant. That's why you see all the faults with these huge contracts. They've never executed a huge contract with any success. You start from the skeleton modernization, sugar factory, whatever you want to call it, the fiber optic cable. They have never executed a major problem without a hitch. Some of what was mentioned today in these 10 announcements that were made, we've heard before. I don't know why they made the list. For instance, the bridge tolls are going to be dropped. I don't know why that ended up there, right? What has not been articulated is some of these agencies that depend on the monies coming from the bridge. For instance, like the Mayor and Town Council in Linden, what is to obtain when that bridge becomes free? They have not articulated that at all. Another thing that lacks articulation is the University of Guyana. We all love that the education is free. It has gone back to pre 1994, the way they
That's a
found it.
tricky one, sure, Sharon.
For
That's a
all,
tricky one. UG, that's a tricky one because
But
what Irfan
that,
said,
that's where I'm coming to. They have not articulated how they will fund UG, how they will provide adequate lecturers with good compensation, how they will continue to move the university forward. And we saw this quote unquote free education in several iterations. It never seemed to be a complete idea. Like whatever they wake up and they dream the night before, they come and try to implement. The latest iteration now is that from January 2025, it will be free. And I'm certain if you ask the administrators at UG, they have not been engaged by this government. Why this adhocracy that is the Irfan Ali Jagyo administration? Why they don't like structure?
but Sharon, I mentioned that the UG one is tricky because what Irfan actually said is that tuition will be free, tuition cost. And UG fees are not just tuition cost. So we need greater clarity on that one. When the
Case in point.
PNC was in office, education was free from nursery to tertiary. At the University of Guyana, under the PNC, we didn't pay a dime. Nobody that studied during the PNC time paid a dime for education at the University of Guyana. Nothing, zilch. Now, Irfan is saying in 2025, the January semester, well, I don't know any semester starting from January. I know it starts from February. But that semester there will be free tuition. But there are also fees called the facilities fees. There are fees
Correct?
called the miscellaneous fees, and those
Correct.
amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what really would be free? Is it just the tuition at 100 and I think it's 200 and something thousand now, 220,000? Because as I made the point in the National Assembly, when the PPP placed tuition on education, it was 127,000 Guyana dollars, which was
Mhm.
equivalent to the 1,000 US dollars. And now the 1,000 US dollar is equivalent to 220,000 Guyana dollars. That is tuition. And there are additional costs that people have to pay for their education at the university, which includes miscellaneous fees and facilities fees. And that cost is also 100 or thereabout thousands of dollars. So what really would be free? Are you telling the students that they will still have to pay those separate costs and just tuition will be free? You need to clarify. And mind you, you are basically giving us back what we had. We had free education in this country. We had free education, nothing was being paid. So you're basically giving us back what you had taken away. So you had taken it away, and now you're giving us back what is really and truly ours. Tell us something new. That's all I can say there.
Chief Whip, jump right in. Jump right in, Chief Whip.
Ganesh made the point, but just to drive it home, that is the point that people have to remember, or that is what a lot of adults need to tell the young people there who are currently at the University of Guyana, those who just left the University of Guyana, and those who have plans to join the University of Guyana in the near future. Under the People's National Congress Reform Administration, under the Forbes Burnham administration, under the Youth Desmond Height administration, the University of Guyana was free for every single Guyanese. Barra Jagdio went to the University of Guyana free because of Forbes Burnham, Gail Teixeira, Anil Nandalal, and the list goes on. It was the People's Progressive Party Civic, the very People's Progressive Party Civic that Irfan Ali is a part of and have been an executive member of the PPP for a number of years. It is that same People's Progressive Party Civic that imposed fees at the University of Guyana after they came into office in 1992. Somewhere around 1994, the People's Progressive Party Civic start instituting fees at the University of Guyana.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now with the removal of fees or tuition or whatever it is at the University of Guyana, is Irfan Ali is righting a wrong that his political party, the PPP, did to the people of Guyana. For the past 20 something years, under the People's Progressive Party Civic, successive People's Progressive Party Civic government, they have allowed young people who went to the University of Ghana, who had to find these tuition fees, even to now, they still have fees that they have to pay off. It is as a result of the PPP. It is the PPP that imposed fees at the University of Ghana. So Irfan Ali is righting a wrong that his very same party created in this country. And he, Irfan Ali, who sat on the People's Progressive Party civic executive body for well over 20 something years and allow that atrocity to continue under successive People's Progressive Party civic administration. Chedi Jagan, Janet Jagan, Bharat Jagdeo, Donald Ramatar, and now himself. 4 years into his administration, now he find favor to remove it. But the thing is that Sherrod and others, we have to constantly remind the Guyanese people. The People's Progressive Party civic always believe that they can insult the intelligence of the Guyanese people. Long time gone, short time come. General and regional elections will be had in this country in a mere month. The People's Progressive Party civic and Irfan Ali's administration has been in office for the past 4 years. Now, all of a sudden, you are hearing about $200 one-off to every household, and the University of Ghana is going to be free and all of that. Mind you, we started receiving oil resources or monies as a result of the oil industry 4 years ago. 4 years ago. So really and truly, what the Guyanese people need to do is take that $200,000 that Irfan Ali is saying that he's going to give to every household, divide that by 48 months since the PPP has been in office and has been receiving oil money, and that comes up to $4,000 something a month. That is essentially what you're getting, $4,000 something a month if you divide that $200,000 by the 48 months that the PPP has been in office. Oil, resources from oil or money from oil have been coming into this country since the PPP came into office. 4 years on, now Irfan Ali decide that he will give a household. I remind your viewers, Sharon, in 2022, you go back to several of the APNU AFC MPs presentation in the National Assembly. And several of those presentations spoke about giving each and every single household. At that time, in 2022, we were talking about figures of $400,000. And that was
300,000.
300,000. And that was when monies were now coming in. 2 years after that, we have been receiving even more money. But here it is, the People's Progressive Party Civic and Irfan Ali believe that they can continue to insult the intelligence of the Guyanese people, coming to say to us now, 4 years after receiving all of this oil money, that we will give you 200,000. But they are, of course, the surrogates and the minions of the PPP out there. They're all over social media. Best president ever, better than David Granger, and the list goes on. And these are many young professionals who should know better. But many of them are now singing the PPP's tune because they have to sing for their supper. That's how they get paid. I asked the question, what do these young people say to their young sons and daughters, particularly their sons? Because there's a saying that being kicked in the behind makes you reluctant to bend over. And I am surprised, or to use the word most of my friends in Linden will use, I am shook it. I am shook it when I went through Facebook this afternoon and see the young people praising Irfan Ali and all of it. It is the same PPP. This is the typical PPP. Friends, I've been in the PNC for September of this year, marked 27 years. When I say I know the PPP, I literally can tell you about from the belly of the beast because I know them. This is how they operate. They believe that the Guyanese people are stupid people. And Irfan Ali to come to Parliament and say we give you 200,000. Not minding the fact that 4 years since we've been receiving oil resources in this country. Oh, this has nothing to do with elections. Oh, suddenly the University of Ghana tuition is going to be free. Oh, all the years the PPP has been there. It is an insult to the intelligence of the Guyanese people. And here it is, the AP and UAFC is saying once again, if you measure what transpired during the APNU AFC administration and David Arthur Granger, and compare that to successive PPP presidents, it is cheese to chalk.
Yeah.
It is cheese to
Yeah.
chalk. Because
Yeah.
during that 5 years, we live in a country in which every single Guyanese, irrespective of his or her race, irrespective of his or her political persuasion, they felt that they live in a country in which they had freedom of expression, freedom to work, freedom to associate, freedom to disagree. Because at that time, under the PNC, AP, and UAFC administration, you had people from all walks of life had that freedom that they could express their legitimate discontent with policies or programs of the APNU AFC. Let them attempt to do that now. And we have seen over these years, like we have seen in previous PPP administration, if you, as a public servant, a young professional, a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, soldier, decide that you're going to speak out about ills that are affecting you, basic ills as it relates to your wages and salaries. Take, for example, the nurses across this country, but particularly those in Linden, when they went on strike. And the PPP, this same PPP, and that's why I keep saying that Chedi Jagan and Janet Jagan must be turning in the grave, because the People's Progressive Party Civic of Chedi and Janet Jagan that I know stood up for working class people. We've seen photographs with Janet Jagan and Chedi Jagan going up the court steps for standing up for workers' rights in this country under the colonizers at the time. And here it is, you have nurses who went on strike in Linden. And then the PPP, with their Attorney General Anil Chatri Nandalal, decide that they can move, that they will not pay these workers for the days that they were on strike. They went to the courts, the very place that has that responsibility to adjudicate these situations. And the court says that you cannot not pay them their salary and they must be paid. And you would think that that's the end of the matter, because these are nurses. These are men and women who are there to
Yeah.
look
The people
after
that care.
the
The
people
people
that
that
care, that
care.
look after the health and well-being of the nation. Instead of that, this big, massive People's Progressive Party civic government in an oil republic of Guyana, touting billions of dollars every year, we're taking in as an oil resource country. You have all of these major companies and people coming to Guyana to develop and spend money. That this PPP, despite all of that, despite having enough money to, as they would say, you have enough money to pelt dog, the PPP got the time with the Attorney General, nothing more important, than to go back to the court and appeal a decision to
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
nurses the salaries. How much
Yeah.
money you talking about?
Yeah.
Not big money. $45,000,
Chief Whip, and in addition to that,
$65,000 a month.
in addition to that, Chief Whip, they are also still fighting the teachers to withdraw the money for the strike days. They're still on that front.
Exactly.
Elton, I want to pull you back in to ask you, how do we wean off of being a hamper nation, a cash grant nation, that people could work and by the sweat of their brow, they could earn money and send their kids to school and pay for health care. You don't gotta get a 10,000 every now and again for brace you with your child health care. That you could live in a country and where by the sweat of your brow you can earn. If it takes a 300,000 for man to say, oh my God, this is Granger that I wanted, but it's really Ali that we got now, but he's a little better. If it take a 300,000 for you to say that, I saw another woman say, finally something. People are hurting in this country, and $300,000 shouldn't be able to blind everybody, because by the time you go in the shop, I want to make this point. Inflation going up. Right now they say it's 1.6. Elson, you know this. They says 1.6 as of June 2024, but it's slated to meet 3.2. So how much of that 300,000 done gone? Cost of living, food prices will keep rising. This is the Bank of Guyana half-year report. Then do you no favors. This is their economy. This is their punishment on Guyanese people. When they assumed office, inflation was 0.9. What are Irfaan telling us out here today? What is Irfaan telling us, Elson?
And you know, the thing that I think is really critical to point out here is that just a few months ago, the teachers they were saying, oh, they can't pay them more because of inflation. But
Yeah,
now apparently they're not worried about inflation. They could dump
yeah,
all the money, $60 billion into the economy,
yeah.
one time boom, because they said is immediately it has to be shared out. So that shows that they're not really serious when it comes to dealing with inflation. And to me, the other telltale sign of that is that this cost of living crisis required several meaningful measures, not just the cash grant program, but also a program to increase agricultural production, to lower the cost of production of agriculture. We've talked about lowering the cost of transporting that produce from the farm to the market through distributing fuel vouchers, so that that'll actually bring down the prices. We even have talked about in future looking at free fertilizer, something that the government could have moved forward with much earlier if they had been focused on the cost of living crisis. And so what you've got essentially is a government that is just copying something that we had put out because it sounds good, it's popular, without really being dedicated to dealing with the core issue that is intended to be dealt with, which is the cost of living crisis. Now, I want to help Guyanese to understand something critical about this. This cost of living crisis is in part tied to some of the effects of the war in Ukraine, which sent up the price of wheat, sent up the price of various other produce, caused global shipping and so on to be more expensive and whatnot. Now, we had indicated that we're also getting more money, more oil money because of this high oil price, which is due to the war. So, in order to compensate Guyanese for the higher cost of living due to these changed circumstances, this money needed to be distributed. So it is that we are paying close attention to the cost of living crisis and presenting solutions to deal with the crisis. They are just putting out money there for political reasons, not because they're genuinely committed to dealing with the cost of living crisis. And as a result of that, you had to wait 2 years to get money that should have been distributed all throughout this time to actually come to the fore. The second thing I want to mention is based on what you asked around Guyanese being able to work and earn more and being able to really live a fulfilled life. One of the things that we recognize is that because the oil industry is growing so quickly and a lot of revenues coming in through that mechanism, we're going to have a structured cash redistribution system in order to one ensure that Guyanese are out of poverty or above the poverty line. Two, are able to live comfortably. And three, we encourage people to build up the appropriate skill sets to be able to get good jobs and earn more. And so our cash grant program is a structured program. It's going to be a monthly program. It has many components to it that are critical, such as this student stipend, $50,000 for 50,000 students every single year to encourage people to go and study. It has programs like salary top ups, so you'll get money on top of your salary to help you to live comfortably in this country. So even if you're working at a low income job, let's say you're doing telemarketing or something for one of those companies, you'll be able to live comfortably in this country. And of course, we want to encourage people to study and gain more skills, which is why we combine that with things like the student stipend. These programs are intended to help people to get good paying jobs and to move their lives forward. At 200,000 one off, which is your only program, is not going to move people's lives forward. That program is just intended to help with the cost of living crisis. It is not a panacea, but the PVP sees this as their end. Politics is just about power for them. It's not really about improving people's lives. So the policies lack any kind of depth to them. We've got a comprehensive suite of policies under the people-centered development strategy, to move Guyanese forward. And it is not just an abstract term, people-centered. We literally mean we have to focus on the Guyanese people and moving them forward, because it is pretty normal, pretty typical that in countries that are fueled by oil and gas resources, the average person is left behind. You see a lot of poverty in those countries. You see a lot of local people unable to get jobs, and foreigners come in and get jobs. We are focused on Guyanese because we recognize the challenges that this type of economy is bringing us, and PvP, on the other hand, is totally ignorant of those, is totally ignoring those challenges. So they see this 200,000 as that's the end of it. I mean, that is to me very much tragic, but it is perhaps not surprising.
That carried to the end of the month, and also that very people-centered development strategy that you proffered there, of which Mr. Aubrey Norton, leader of the opposition, is the architect for. Different components of this strategy talks about, for instance, direct and indirect resource transfer, cash transfer, focus on poverty alleviation and eradication. It goes into sustainable development for all communities and sectors, good governance and a just, prosperous society, guaranteed high quality social services. It talks about the focus on education, human capital development, addressing the needs of youth. I was surprised lots more wasn't spoken about this today, as against just some more handouts, even though they are badly needed. But as we're on the lead of the opposition, I want to take you to some comments by the leader of the opposition on the protest line today, because as you know, the parliamentary opposition boycotted this speech, feeling that, of course, there's been lots of corruption and mismanagement that President Irfaan doesn't want to address, failed to address, and has had no action on them. You've got matters like a clean voters list, doing a time with that proper cost of living relief and all of that. Collective bargaining, true collective bargaining, as the court spelled out quite recently. They don't have time with these issues, but as Ganesh said, maybe today was the launch of Irfan's early second term, or maybe it was, well, could be one and the same, a huge distraction from some of the real issues that this company grappling with. Take a look, take a listen, and we can have some comments on the other side.
Our right to legitimately protest outside of the current location of our parliament has been denied, with barriers erected to keep us away, stifling our right to freedom of speech and expression. And we could say that because we know they will always put up barriers. That is all they do. This morning, we are here to put on record our decision not to attend today's parliamentary sitting, at which the installed president of Guyana will speak. Our public demonstration is intended to re-emphasize that Guyana remains in crisis, a crisis in parliamentary democracy, a crisis in local government affairs, a crisis in political relations, a corruption crisis, a transparency and accountability crisis, a law enforcement crisis, and a crisis in terms of the high cost of living and poor quality of life experienced daily by most Guyanese citizens. Amidst oil wealth, a substantial percentage of the Guyanese people live in poverty. The government will, of course, try to pretend that things are regular in the state of Guyana. It spares no effort in pretending that the people of Guyana are pleased and contented with their lives. The government refuses to accept that a substantial percentage of our people live in poverty and that they are raising their voices in protest. The PPP is either blind and deaf, or indifferent and heartless, or incompetent and clueless, or arrogant and elitist, or all of the above. We in the opposition will not play along with the PPP's deception and pretensions. We will not lose sight of the fact that the entire Guyanese population, in particular the 50% and more who voted for us at the 2020 general regional elections, continue to look to us to represent their concerns and interests, to defend their rights and freedoms, to restrain the PPP from its excessive and self-centeredness, and to present an alternative vision of development with people at the center rather than support the PPP cronyism and wealth to their families, friends, and favorite approach. We will continue to fight on the people's behalf. We have and will continue to use all effective means at our disposal to expose and remedy bad governance, corruption, executive lawlessness, and all forms of discrimination, and will continue to demand the easing of the economic burden on the poor and vulnerable in Guyana that are a result of the PPP mismanagement, corruption, and divisiveness. We have, for instance, looked to use the parliamentary mechanism to the fullest to raise and address critical issues affecting the ordinary people of Guyana. Let us recall, on the 20th of January 2022, the parliamentary opposition under the hand of Member of Parliament Annette Ferguson submitted a motion on the high cost of living crisis facing Guyanese. The Speaker of the House used a range of contortions to eventually disallow this motion. Even so, we have tabled a record number of motions and questions to ministers. Unfortunately, for as long as the Speaker of the House remains a puppet of the government, and for as long as the government continues to undermine and stifle Parliament, it will remain the sham it is. Let us also recall that since the PPP took office in August 2020, many standing committees of the National Assembly have not met to begin work. One such committee is the National Security.
The leader of the opposition is on point there. Went on talking about how the ordinary man in this country is sidelined, or how the ordinary man is left out of the oil wealth in this country and the direction in which this country is going in. They don't listen. They don't like to consult. And as he said, there was coming back with that. This motion was filed months ago for us to talk about cost of living, but they have been burying their heads in this time. How can you lead a country like that?
Well, what
Sharon,
is,
I want
let me just make a quick point here, Ganesh. Don't you recall the PPP saying when they passed that initial budget for the year that they wanted to consult with people about the cost of living and engage? Where was the where are these consults? This is October. These consultations are ever gonna happen? That is just a great indication of the type of government you're dealing with. They're not interested, as you said, in talking to people and getting their lived experiences. They just want to rule by whatever it is they dictate.
Exactly, and you recall too as well. The report on inflation is actually from the Bank of Guyana, and
Yeah.
in January, February this year, when we had the budgets debate, our shadow Minister of Finance, Ms. Jurita Fernandez, and several of the MPs in their budget presentation spoke about the inflation, and it was no less of a person than the Minister of Finance and several of the PPP ministers of the government debunked that. They said that no, there's no inflation, it's a hoax, all of this here. Now, here it is, the very Bank of Guyana stated that inflation of 1.6 occurred during the first quarter of the year.
Yep, yep.
Sharon,
And it's slated to go up. Not only is the card, it's going to go up. That's the interesting part. Ganesh.
good. I was going to make the point that the people of Guyana can get more money if there was prudent financial management of our resources. Take, for example, the corruption and wastage is so much in this country that is affecting all of us who are ordinary, hardworking Guyanese. And I know time may not permit, but let me just extract three of the findings of the Auditor General in the 2023 audit that he conducted for the government spending. When you look at the Ministry of Health, he speaks here of the non-delivery of drugs and medical supplies. This is what the Auditor General found. Outstanding deliveries amounted to $5.466 billion. Billion with a B as of December 2023. As of August 2024, deliveries totaling $2.106 billion were delivered, leaving a balance of $870.955 million of drugs and medical supplies paid for and yet to be delivered. Similarly, as it relates to 2022, $147.605 million is yet to be delivered. So you have $147.605 million in drugs yet to be delivered. That was since 2022. And for 2023, $870.955 million yet to be delivered. The money was paid though. So we don't know if we're going to get those drugs. Here it is. During the period January 2023 to June 2024, a quantity totaling $3.228 billion were expired and disposed of by the Ministry of Health. In addition, a quantity totaling $2.332 billion were still on hand to be disposed. To be disposed. billions of dollars in wastage there, billions of dollars. Here, this one, Ministry of Agriculture, Drainage and Irrigation, purchase of pumps, amongst totaling $600.886 million were paid for the design, supply, installation, and commissioning of 9 fixed and 3 mobile high capacity drainage pumps and associated structures or equipment. However, 10 of the 12 engines supplied were determined to be undersized and incapable of running the pumps on a long-term basis. And the government requested that the contractor replace the 10 engines. However, at the time of reporting in September 2024, none of the 10 engines were replaced as requested. The contractor got to be a friend, a family, or a
Yeah,
favorite
yeah,
because no action
yeah,
is taken. This is the
yeah,
Amerindian Affairs now, the third one I want, and the last one. Amerindian Affairs. Despite several requests, the ministry did not present financial statements for the year 2023 for amounts received, totaling $240 million. Similar observation was made in 2022 when the sum of $302.454 million was transferred to the fund. So you see what we talk about when we say wastage, when we say
yeah, yeah,
corruption, when we say
yeah,
filling the pockets of
yeah.
friends, families, and
Family favorite.
favorites.
Yeah.
If they
Mhm.
had prudent financial management, more monies could have come in the pockets of ordinary, hardworking,
Yeah.
tax-paying Guyanese.
Yeah, yeah, and Ganesh, I hope the other general spoke about the new headquarters for Ministry of Public Works because 7 billion was forwarded to the contractor since 2022. And the good bishop says the man is mobilizing. Just gonna set the stones on the property. He says he's mobilizing off site. 3 years now, the man mobilizing. He can't do anything, But I saw again. I come back to this instance where Chris mentioned this post on social media. Oh, Irfaan Ali is the man. This is what we wanted in Granger,
Mhm.
because your father building big apartment buildings, in every village and town. And the man with the 7 billion can put up the headquarters for the
And
public works.
his father was living at a hotel when the house roof was being changed. You think we don't know the story?
Of a guy, these people, right? And right now, he probably holding a job he should not hold too. There's that too. There's another story, folks. As we wrap up, I want to start from Chris. Your closing thoughts as we wrap up the broadcast. You had all these measures. We know the pains of the Guyanese people. They seem like a plaster, more than a cure.
Exactly, exactly. Sherrod and colleagues, I want to say that I still believe in the Guyanese people. I seriously believe in the intelligence of the Guyanese people, notwithstanding the onslaught that is coming from social media with those minions of the People's Progressive Party Civic trying to paint a rosy picture. Like if this $200,000 is going to be the wherewithal, that
It's
this
every
will
month.
cover, yes, this is going to cover your mortgage for every month, your utility bills, and all of that. I still believe in the Guyanese people because I know that they see, they read, and they hear all of the information is coming out. Take, for example, Ganesh and the Auditor General report. This is
Yeah.
not the APNU AFC report. This is the Auditor General report. And Ganesh said wastage. He didn't include thiefage. But those monies mounted to almost $10 billion. And if you go back and look at the monies that the nurses were requesting for the increase in wages and salaries, it may be less than that amount. Similarly, the teachers and so forth. The People's Progressive Party Civic cares not about the working class and the people of this country. They don't care about the development. It is all about the friends, family, and cronies of the PPP. When we are fighting to make ends meet every month, and these PPP people getting the big time contract with 1 billion, 7 billion, and you name it dollars. They don't care
House
about you.
building and they sing at hotels, man. It's nice
E-
time.
Exactly. So I say to you that listen, long time gone, short time
Yeah.
come. General
Yeah.
and regional elections is upon us, and you have the opportunity. If you want to live a true comfortable life in which you are comfortable, you are free to express yourself, freedom of movement in a country in which you're secure, in which your children, irrespective of your political persuasion or their ethnicity, that they have a right to work and earn. Even some of these young contractors have to stoop to the PPP or put up some posts on Facebook because you're getting a contract on the PPP. That nonsense has to stop. As a Guyanese, you have a right. It is not a privilege, it's a right to earn in this country. And come next year, during general and regional elections, you have the opportunity to correct this wicked and wrong that the People's Progressive Party Civic continues to do to this nation.
Yeah, we could have a whole other program, Chris, on a refrain that you have an issue that you speak to so clearly every time. The last administration we had the theme of the good life, and it meant different things to different people. You always say you had a peace of mind. You could walk in this country with fear, people robbing you all the time. Now look at the drive-by shooting and killing and maiming of
Kidnapping
people.
and kidnapping.
Kidnapping.
Mhm.
The carnage in our roads and our waterways, the violence against our women and girls. You could name the amount of maladies we have in this society. Elson, over to you.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that we really need to highlight going forward, or that we need to help the Guyanese people to see clearly, is that the PPP always claims that they know, they have an idea of what to do, they have a plan. These guys have no clue what to do, no clue.
Agree.
They're just
Agree.
copying the things that they think that are popular. They put them out too late. They don't put out enough policies to deal with the cost of living. They can't properly manage projects. You mentioned, Skeldon, but the gas energy. They said, oh, 50% they'll be reduced the cost of electricity by next year. That project is significantly delayed, and the startup may not even make the election. That's how delayed that project is. This is what you're dealing with. They don't like structure, as you said. They're not able to plan, they're not able to execute. And so in order to paper over from that, they copy an idea here and there and they throw it out. And they hope that nobody notices that they themselves didn't have any idea of what exactly to do. It's sad, but really it must give Guyanese a sense that this is the way that things will be if the PP persists, if they remain in office. In order to get an administration that has comprehensive plans, that listens to people, that is structured, you're going to have to change the PPP, get the PPP out of office, because this is going to continue. It's 4 years in. And if this is going to be the way they're going to govern the country for 4 years, it means that this is the way that they intend to govern it always.
Yeah, yeah. We got a lot of way to go. We got a lot of way to go. Ganesh, we keep seeing this over and over. As Mr. Norton says, leader of the opposition, it's a kleptocracy in this country. They've been trying to stifle the work y'all been doing with the PA. If everything nice in this country, why don't one day PAC to examine 2021, 2, 3, 4 come up and make the public accounts current? Why don't you want them to examine that? Why you fighting the chairman? You're fighting this body. You pull out the chairman. You fighting parliamentarians. You don't have parliament with any consistency. If this country is so nice, why does it feel so horrible? Why does it feel so horrible to live in this country? Ganesh?
Sharad, 2 years ago, I know that the APNU AFC said that the minimum salary for a public servant should be $150,000. 2 years ago, we said that. And here is it that Irfan Ali is saying that by the end of 2025, minimum public sector wage will be increased to $100,000. So clearly, he is not giving us what we rightly deserve. And I see that he also said in 2025 a new income tax deductible for children, where one parent will be able to get $10,000 per child per month. There are a lot of public sector workers who are 18 and 19 and 20, and they're trying to make living now. They don't have a family. They're trying to put themselves in order to get a family. Why it had to be specific to people with children? Why could it not have been every public sector worker will get to enjoy this $10,000 income tax deductible? You see, people have to understand that they must not be fooled by this falsehood.
Yeah.
They must not
Yeah.
be fooled by this painting over their face to say that, you know what, he has done something good. This, as I said in my opening remarks, is the launch of Irfan Ali's campaign. for a second term. But we, the people of Guyana, we have to be sensible in ensuring that we don't go down that line of giving this man a second term. He does not deserve it. In the first place, he should not have been there, because we must never forget what elections 2020 showed us: the amount of abnormalities, irregularities, and anomalies, and how the fraud that was committed on election 2020 really installed him and his people there for elections, for the government of 2020 to now. And we have the opportunity to return good governance, to return accountability and transparency, and to return decency and honesty to the people of Guyana in the form of a government that really and truly demonstrated care and will want to continue to show that care for the people of Guyana. You see, ultimately, Sherrod, this is not about you, Elson, Chris, or myself. This is about the future generation. This is about our children. This is about our grandchildren, and us ensuring that we lay a strong and firm foundation for them. The people of the PPP, all they care about filling their pockets. They will be collecting the $200,000 too, even though every one of
Yeah,
them are collecting
yeah,
over $1 million a month
yeah.
of taxpayers' money. They're actually taking home more than $1.8 million a month, and they're gonna collect the $200,000 too. They're not gonna say, you know what, let me see to give it out to somebody who's poor and need it more than me. They're gonna take it and they're gonna put it in their pockets, as they have been doing with taxpayers' money since 2020. We have to make the change. We have to be the change, and we have to ensure that we stand strong and vote them out come elections 2025. Thank you very much, Sherrod.
All right, we leave it there, folks. Thanks for coming by, guys. Thank you. All right, there you have it. Thanks again. Some other things we could go on. Sometimes I wonder if we even need a budget. If every 2 mornings people just run out and make a whole set of announcements. I mean, you factored that in the budget when it just 2 months ago you had a budget, 3 months ago. Do we even need a budget? Maybe you should just change your law and say you just run out every three months. You make a big announcement, and we govern by announcements. We govern by cash handouts. We govern by big announcements. Maybe go down there. I don't know. Maybe that's how we could do it. But we got a long road ahead of us, folks. And look to continue. The struggle continues. We're gonna see you guys right back here on the next one. That's our time this evening, and that's our program. Stay safe. Good to see you, all of you on the live. Marlon, I see you there. Orwindon, I see you there. Jai Shrikant, we see you there as well. Jamal, Aziz, Rowena, Stacyan, and Yvette, and Rastaman, and all you wonderful folks. Our Luther continue. The struggle continues, folks. We're going to see you guys right back here on the next one. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to all of my guests, Christopher Jones, Chief Whip, Danish Mahi Paul, a member of the Public Accounts Committee, member of Parliament, the Shadow for Local Government and Regional Development, and also Elson Lowe. Many hats he wears: Treasurer of the PNCR, advisor to the Leader of the Opposition on all things economics, and also the Speaker. He's also the spokesperson on oil and gas for the PNCR as well. Thanks to all of them for coming by. And thank you, folks, who made our program what it is by you. Just showing up. Just showing up. Thanks, folks. See you guys in the next one. See you guys in the next one. Stay safe.